So if we can train ourselves, the single most important thing to do is to train ourselves to self-regulate, tune into those signals, find out what they're attached to, find out what's driving you. Then as you do that, so I think I'd like to start adding in maybe improvements in improving my metabolism. Use the Lumen device. That's a great way, because when you see something physically, it makes it so much easier
Yeah.
to then start changing your patterns and then start working on your nutrition. Slowly introduce exercises.
So welcome everyone to another special talk here at Lumen HQ. So today we are talking about conquering health using mindset and metabolism. So we are joined by a very special guest, one we've had before. We're very lucky and we're huge fans of her. So welcome, Dr. Caroline Leaf.
Thank you so much. It's great to be back with you, Mia.
So we are today, right? We're going to talk about the gut-brain connection, belly fat, and the power of habits, to name some of many topics we're going to cover. But first, for anyone who's listening and watching this and don't know who you are, I don't think there's going to be many because you're really well known. But can you tell us about your background, your 4 decades of extensive research and incredible work, and where you're based in the world?
Thanks so much, Mia. Well, I'm a clinical and research neuroscientist and communication pathologist and audiologist, and I study in the field of psychoneurobiology, which is the mind-brain-body connection. I practiced clinically for about 25 years, actually in South Africa. I was born in Zimbabwe, raised in South Africa, been in the States for the last 15 years. I have run a full research team. We do full research, published, peer-reviewed, published research on the mind-brain-body connection, looking at all kinds of how what the mind is, what it does in the brain, the body, the impact. And I write books and do podcasts and helping people to understand the power, what the mind is, because people are so confused when it comes to mind and brain and body, and how we can train ourselves to manage our mind and how that influences the brain and the body.
So we gathered a few questions from our community. So some of them know you well. They watched the talk we did before together. Some of them got your books. And so I thought some very interesting questions that came up with. Some big ones, I've got to be honest. We're going to start big here. The first one that came in, okay, you ready? Does metabolism lie in the mind?
Okay, so the mind controls metabolism. So it's not that metabolism lies in the mind. It's in fact, think of metabolism as when your body's actually doing what it's supposed to be doing. So it's more like a verb. Metabolism is an action that's happening in your body, and if you're dead, metabolism can't happen. When you're alive, your metabolism is happening, and that may sound like such a silly example, but that mind is your aliveness. Mind is your ability to actually experience life mentally, but it is also driving the physiological aspects of your brain and body. So if you're dead, mind doesn't operate, therefore there's no metabolism, there's no brain function, there's no mental action, there's nothing. And we don't know what happens when we die. And so therefore, mind is driving the metabolism.
Wow. Wow, great answer. And I've got to say, I mean, these questions were awesome from our community. The next one, have you observed, Dr. Leaf, the impact of nutrition on cognitive function and mental health? The impact of nutrition on mental health and cognitive function.
Okay, so there's a huge focus in the last, I would say there has been an increasingly big focus on nutrition, nutritional psychiatry, and in the wellness movement, particularly over the last, I'd say 10 years, and especially in the last 5 years. Now, I think it's fantastic that we are looking at nutrition as a form of helping with mental health, and there's definitely a role. But I'll say this with caution, because you can be eating the most fantastic diet. You can be monitoring with a tool like Lumen's device, which is an absolutely fantastic way of monitoring. But if you aren't managing your mind, you kind of don't get the benefit of any of those things, because your mind enables your body to have a metabolism that is functioning like it should, and your mind enables you to pick up when your metabolism is not functioning. Your mind actually empowers things like your pancreas and your digestive system and the gut-brain connection to operate at their optimal in order for you to absorb those nutrients. So it's almost like if you eat well and you're monitoring, but you don't actually manage your mind around that. If you just think the external, I'm going to take this, do that, measure this, but I don't actually manage my mind, you're putting a band-aid on the wound. So you
Yeah.
have to, you have to work mind, and then those things then will work way better.
And the mind and the metabolism is, relies on, like you mentioned, doing the inside out work, focusing on what's inside, and then you'll see the effects, the results on the outside. And I think in today's society, we're focusing so much on that exterior,
Absolutely.
and almost brushing away all that what's going on the inside with the mind and the metabolism. We're just brushing it to the side. So I think that's a really good point. Actually, the next one's also a great question. Um, in what ways does a person's gut health influence mental health and cognitive function? In the sense, the nutrition that's absorbed in the walls of the gut. How does that actually, physiologically affect a person?
I wrote a book about I think 8 or 9 years ago, 10 years ago, on mind, and it's called Think and Eat Yourself Smart. And in that, I talk about the rise of the gut-brain connection. Now, almost 8 to 10 years later, it is such a massive focus, and I'm so pleased and thrilled. But once again, I'll tell you now, if you're dead, that doesn't matter what you do to your gut; it's not going to be functioning. So, when you're alive, how you're managing your mind is going to influence the effectiveness of gut health. And there is a role between the mind and the mind. The mind controls the brain and the body. The mind is inbrained and embodied. It's basically everywhere. So the gut is connected directly from the brain to the gut and the brain are directly, there's a very direct connection, quicker than to other parts of the body, except to the heart. So there's a very quick interaction, but it's still driven by your mind. So yes, understanding the gut-brain connection, understanding the gut. Really, I'm totally all for gut health. I'm all for all of that, but not to do that to the exclusiveness of managing the mind, because you can wreck the good work that you do. So if you're doing a good gut health regimen, if you're eating the correct gut health foods, if you have identified that there's IBS is such an issue globally, and there's very 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 linked to stress. There's established research showing that we know the established link between unmanaged stress, toxic stress, and gut health, other areas of health as well. So once again, it's the link between what unmanaged toxic stress, which is how are we using our mind to deal with our life, to deal with the issues of life, to deal with work, to deal with relationships, to deal with triggers, to deal with the pace of life, to deal with not resting enough. How are we using our mind? Because our body and brain, including our gut, are just going to do what you tell it to do. So if your mind is sending through a whole lot of energy into the gut that is negative, it's like kind of taking your computer and throwing it on the floor. And that's you're not, no matter how great the software is in the computer, if you throw it on the floor, it's not going to work very well. And that's the principle operating.
Wow. Now, you just mentioned, how our lifestyle factors like stress, right, are impacting, how we are, creating daily habits that are healthy, for example, and, how we're managing and improving our mind in general and the gut health. What have you found like the key lifestyle changes or habits that can really positively impact your gut health and in turn your mental well-being?
There's no one habit or a selection of habits. And even though it sounds like I'm contradicting myself, because if you just look out there in the wellness industry and you look at all the books on self-help, there's endless do this habit and your life is going to be, you've been living in for the last 10 years and do these 5 things and your life will be perfect. And we've reached a time where we realize it's very unrealistic, that there isn't one set of habits. What it starts with is you learning how to make peace with yourself, learning how to accept the unacceptable, getting into a rhythm of accepting the ups and downs of life and not getting stuck there. Where you are stuck there, finding ways and support to get unstuck and to work around that mind management aspect. And then alongside that is to then build in various habits that work for you, because not everyone wants to go and exercise at 5 in the morning or jump in a cold shower for 3 minutes. And
No, definitely not.
have to do. Yeah, there's so many have to do's that it's made people even more stressed. So it's really, I would start with get in touch with yourself. Start with a very gentle get in touch with yourself. What is it that you need as a person? Get your mind management. That's a huge part of what I do with the neurocycle and all the stuff, is to help you recognize the signals that your body and body, mind, and brain are telling you through your behaviors and your emotions and your bodily sensations, your perspectives, how you're looking at life. If you can learn to self-regulate those, that is the best habit you can develop. Because once you
Mhm.
self-regulate those, you start using your conscious mind. Your conscious mind, sorry, becomes very tuned in to how you're functioning. When that happens, you tune into your wisdom. When you tune into your inner wisdom, which is on a science level, is your non-conscious mind, your just what's that logic that when someone comes to ask you, hey, I've got this problem, what do you think I should do? And you give them advice and you think, wow, that was great advice, I should follow it too. That's what I'm talking about, inner wisdom. It's not some weird woo-woo thing. It's you are at your core wired for love, wired for wisdom. We say this as neuroscientists. All of our biology is wired to be on your side. So if we can train ourselves, the single most important thing to do is to train ourselves to self-regulate, tune into those signals, find out what they're attached to, find out what's driving you. What are the
Yeah.
thoughts that are driving you? Is it lack of self-worth? Is it that people pleasing? Is it what is that driving you predominantly? Start getting a handle on that. Get okay with it. It's okay to be messy, but then start getting a plan to handle that. Then as you do that, it's like I think I'd like to start adding in maybe improvements in improving my metabolism. Use the Lumen device. Start that's a great way because when you see something physically, it makes it so much easier
Yeah.
to then start changing your patterns and then start working on your nutrition. Slowly introduce exercises. So it's not this whole, and it also doesn't happen mere over. And I know one of the questions you wanted to ask me that you and I had discussed before was about the whole habit formation. You're
Yeah.
not going to get what I've just described in one decision after this
No.
conversation. It's going to take at least 63 days, at least 9 weeks. Myself and my team have been researching this for years, and there's a few teams around the world that have been looking at how long it actually takes for a neural network to rewire. And when I say a neural network, it's not just the brain, it's the brain, body, and mind. The mind has gravitational field networks, which are linked to brain networks, which are linked to body networks. And that entire spectrum of networks will not change in just one day. It takes around about 9 weeks. And it's daily, persistent, planned, and guided work. So you may just for 9 weeks get into the habit of just working on self-regulating, learning to tune into yourself. Then the next 9 weeks you may say, okay, I'm going to add metabolism work to that, and so on and so on. Just slowly. That's what I would recommend. That's realistic. That's what I've seen work with my patients and what works with people. We reach millions now with our platform, and that's the kind of advice I give everyone.
And it's you. I mean, you touched on three important points. It's it takes time, consistency, staying accountable, as well. But also what you touched on earlier is, one size doesn't fit all. And we are definitely, I'm so glad we've got that shift now away from that and actually towards personalizing everything to do with health and well-being. So the first one, the one size doesn't fit all. And the second, just take the time to understand your body and your mind and what drives you, as you mentioned. So this the next question is great. Like, how then does biofeedback, I think we kind of answered it, contribute to the transformation of habits and enhancing your mental well-being and metabolism? Because basically biofeedback does that, right? I mean, it's, with the Lumen, for example, it's helping you understand what lifestyle factors impact your metabolism, impact your weight loss journey, impact, or how stress impacts your metabolism. How does stress impact your health and well-being? Sleep, your water intake, your nutrition. So how do you see the future of Lumen and other devices out there that are, giving that individual the biofeedback and helping them shift towards, creating the 63 days towards building, better habits?
We always respond very well when we can actually show someone what's changing. And what I enjoyed about the Lumen device, because obviously I use it, is to be able to just see what's going on with your metabolism and to see when your mood shifts or when you're under more stress, and to see that and that feedback to know, oh, okay, hang on, I need to do a neurocycle. I need to calm down a little bit. I need to slow down, or I need to speed up, or hey, I'm functioning so well. This is amazing. That to see it is wonderful. So I think biofeedback, not I think, I know biofeedback and neurofeedback both are very important. We, in fact, in our Neurocycle app, what we're doing is we are actually building in biofeedback as well as neurofeedback into our new version of the app, and obviously we recommend Lumen to everyone as well. But the thing I say it with caution. Number one is that you can't rely on the external, and I have spoken at biohacking conferences, some of the biggest in the world, and where there's the base, you can, halls full of the most amazing biofeedback devices, and people are externalizing once again. So, like, if I do this, if I do that, if I do that, and it's almost can become, you become so focused on those biofeedback things, you don't do the mind work. So
Yeah.
you've got to be careful that mind is your a priori. Mind is the first thing. Without mind, you couldn't even understand. You wouldn't be alive to be able to experience the Lumen device, for example. So you've got to make sure that you are always managing your mind and that you see the device as supportive as
Yeah.
opposed to the fix. It's a support, they're supportive and a great way for helping us to stay on track, to monitor that kind of thing. But they don't replace the fact that you have to deal with your pain. You can have someone who's really injured. I've worked a lot with people with traumatic brain injuries and maybe who've been paralyzed, and they now, and they're brilliant, and everyone's brilliant. But I mean, they've got to deal with this emotional journey of the change in their life as well as get their physical healing back. And a lot of people will focus very strongly on the physical, which is so important because it is that routine and everything. But you also have to walk through the healing of the emotional pain and process it and deal with that. And the devices aren't going to fix that. The device
No.
will support, but it will not fix.
Did you get any insights when you were using your lumen? And you've been using your lumen for, way back. Any powerful insights that you gained? Because obviously you've used your neurocycle, but you've also used the lumen, together. And I think as a combination, it's powerful.
It's
Those
fantastic.
two,
Yeah.
I mean, I think fantastic. I think for anyone watching to get to have both and be on that health journey with both, with the app and the Lumen device to work on your nutrition and movement, I think it's super. But from your personal experience, what insights did you get from your Lumen?
So I always say, I find that for me it's just so obvious when I haven't managed my stress. So if
Mhm.
this stress is good for us, but if it's shifted, stress, we need stress. It's actually had
Yeah.
such bad press. It's so good for us. It keeps us focused and alert. But there's a fine balance where it tips. And so I found the Lumen device picks it up very, very quickly, almost as quickly as blood work. I can feel like if I'm overwhelmed or overworked or certain things are happening, it's immediately obvious in my metabolism. And the Lumen device picks it up. So it's a reminder, hey, you know what? This really is impacting your body. This is not just something that's just going to go away. Your body is taking the toll. And your body is this thing that you're guiding and you're not looking after it. So it's that kind of language into myself that, hey, listen, this is taking strain on your body. So what you can do is focus on your body a bit now, focus on your getting calm to get your body calm. Then you'll deal with that other issue. Let's get you in a better space. That's what the Lumen has done for me. It's a very quick visual way of getting back on track.
Last question. What do you think the future holds with the gut brain connection and health benefits, all that research around that, and your own research? What's coming up in Dr. Caroline Leaf's work?
We've got some great research going on with the tracking the healing journey. We've got another paper coming out in March now. We had another one, came out one last year. We've got another three papers coming out soon. And essentially, these are peer review papers, but the research is showing that as we manage our mind, we're seeing a shift in our brain waves. The brain waves are then changing, will immediately affect metabolism and things like cortisol, and even down to telomeres, which are the ends of chromosomes, which influence biological aging. So we're doing a lot of work around the healing journey and that change in our physiology, and the healing journey being that a lot of these, and with our whole biomedical model, there's been so much focus on diagnostic categories and talking about our medicalizing our adverse reactions to life, medicalizing our emotions, and that's something I've been arguing against for years in my research, because humans are going to go through ups and downs, and to medicalize them siphons away the importance and the hugeness of our stories. So what I hope to see with things like the Lumen device and the research I'm doing and the research around gut brain connection is a move towards the wholeness of a person's
Yeah.
experience, and the recognition that each and every one of us are going through ups and downs. There's a journey. You'll have an up, you'll have a down. Like, for example, at day 21, around day 21 to 28, we call it the danger zone in the healing journey, because a lot of people feel that they've got things under control at that point, but there's a massive dip that's coming. And what happens with a lot of people is that they get to this point where they think they're coping, and they have this massive dip. You'll see it in the metabolism, and then they think, oh, there's something wrong with me. The medical disease has come back, and they think they're a broken and diseased brain and they're wrong, and they get stuck. And I don't want people to go through that. I want people to realize it's very, very normal to dip at around day 28. In fact, you're going to have a huge insight around day 32, and then at day 42, there's another dip. And then, that's what we're working on now, is to help people understand that full healing journey. And you can see the metabolism kind of marries with those ups and downs,
Yeah.
which is interesting.
Because life's not perfect. You're going to have those ups and downs. And like you said, it's going to impact your metabolism, for example. And it's okay, because we always say the next day it's a new day. You can get back on track.
Exactly. And the thing is, people know that instinctively, but they live in what they know instinctively, and they live in what the world tells them. And the world tells them that if you show certain symptoms, there's something wrong with you medically. You've got a brain disease. That's an illness. It's the messaging that they're receiving from the world of psychiatry and the biomedical world. So that's very unfortunate. But it's to persist and to push through is so important.
Wow. Dr. Leaf, thank you so much. This has been absolutely amazing. And I want to thank the Lumen community as well for those questions. They were brilliant.
Yeah.
Very good questions. I will link in the description below the book, the neurocycle, all the information, your website, where people can find you. What's the best way that people can find more about your books and your app?
There's a web version, but it's on iOS, so Apple and Google Play. drleaf.com. You can find everything. My Instagram, all my social media handles are Dr. Caroline Leaf, so they can find everything from there as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. I always enjoy talking to you. Thank you so much.